Today, I'm going to show you how to build an AI avatar that can analyze stocks and talk to you about market performance in real time. We'll be combining Livekit for voice communication, Tavily's search API, and Hedra for the AI avatar. When it's all done, it'll look a little something like this.
Hello there. How can I help you with stock research today?
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff on Twitter between Elon Musk and Sam Altman, so I was just wondering how is Tesla stock doing today?
Okay, let me check the market stats for today. Right now, Tesla's stock is around $341. It closed recently at about $339. Over the past couple of years, it's been as high as about $480 and as low as $142. It's been gaining about 19% annually on average, but with a bit of volatility. Is there anything else you'd like to know about Tesla or any other stock?
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff from Mark Zuckerberg pushing these Meta Ray-Ban glasses, so I was wondering how's Meta stock doing?
Okay, let me check the market stats for today. Meta's stock is currently around $791, and it closed recently at about $780. Over the past couple of years, it's been doing really well, with a total return of over 150%. The annual growth rate has been around 60%, which is quite impressive. Let me know if you want more details, or if you're curious about any other stocks.
That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me know if you have more questions anytime.
Alright, so this is a basic walkthrough of how this project is going to work. So first off, our AI avatar is going to greet us and ask for the stock that we want to know about. And then we're going to tell it a stock that we want to know about, whether it be Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Google, whatever. The AI avatar is going to be able to understand what we're saying, and then it's going to call this function called get stock analysis, which is just going to be a basic function tool, which is going to be a Python function inside of our code. And then in that function, we're going to make a post request to the Tavily API search to get some information back about our specific stock that we're asking for. And this is going to be a web search that includes stock data, current price, performance, news, analysis, all that stuff. And when our function receives the data back from the Tavily API, the AI is going to generate a comprehensive answer, because when we get our data back, it's going to be in raw Python dictionary form. So our agent is going to have to be able to look at it, parse it, and be able to give an answer so that we can continue the conversation. So it's going to parse through this data that we received back. We're going to get an answer, a URL from where this data came from, and different search results. And once that's done, it's going to speak to us in natural language so that we can understand what is going on with the stock. And then we'll be able to ask follow-up questions about this specific stock or other stocks. And our agent will be able to detect when it needs to make these tool calls. And that's the basics of this conversation loop. So what we're just going to be doing is asking it a question about a stock. It'll make a call to the Tavily API, bringing that back, parsing that response in natural language to say back to us, and that's the conversation. So let's get into the build. The first step is we need to head over to livekit.io. Livekit is just an open source software where you can configure voice agents. So once you're here, click on Start Building, and we're going to need to make a Livekit project. Livekit's going to be able to provide the voice agent and the room that we're going to meet our AI avatar assistant in. So at the bottom left here, click on Create New Project. And I'm just going to call mine Stock Expert and click Create. Once that's done, click on Go to Project. And you can just skip this for now. And okay, now that we're in the Stock Expert project that we just created, we need to grab our API keys. So go to the left-hand side where it says Settings and click on API Keys. And we're going to create a new key. So I'll just call this one Stock Expert, just like my project, and click Generate Key. Once that's done, we need to copy our environment variables. So copy those and head over to your code editor. All right, now I'm in my code editor. You can use whichever IDE you'd like VS Code or Cursor, but I prefer Cursor. So I'm going to go ahead and open a project, and I'll click on New Folder, and I'll call this one Stock Agent and create that. And the first thing we need to do is set up a Python virtual environment. So open up a terminal on Mac. You can do that by hitting Control / and run the command python -m -v -v. Once that's done, you can run the command source -bin/activate to activate this virtual environment. This is a Mac command, and the virtual environment is just going to be a Python folder where we're going to be installing our different dependencies on for this project. Okay, so let's create our file for our environment variable since we just copied that key from Livekit. So write touch.env, and this is going to create our .env, which is our environment file, and paste in those keys that we just copied. Save that. Now we need to head back to our browser to access the Livekit docs to set up a voice agent. So I'll show you how to get there. Now that we're in the browser, we can just open up a new tab and search up Voice AI Quick Start. And it's going to be these Livekit docs right here. So now that we're in the Voice AI Quick Start, we can just go through this step by step to see what we need to do to configure this voice agent. We're going to be using the full speech-to-text LLM text-to-speech pipeline, meaning we're going to have to use Deepgram, OpenAI, and Cartesia. So we'll need those 3 API keys. So scroll down, and the first thing we need to do is install the following packages to build a complete voice agent with our pipeline, noise cancellation, and turn detection. So I'm going to copy this, and let's head back to our code. Let's just run that command really quickly, that pip install. So let's paste that in and click enter. Now we are installing our required dependencies. Back in the browser, we need to get those API keys I was talking about. So the first one I'm going to get is my OpenAI API key. In order to get there, you need to go to platform.openai.com/API-keys. And you need to log in, but once you log in, this is where you'll be able to access your OpenAI API key. So copy that and head back to your code. Now I pasted my OpenAI API key in my code. Next, we need our Deepgram API key. Deepgram is the software that we use that transcribes our speech to text so that the LLM can understand what we're saying. So let's go back to the browser. To get this key, just go to Deepgram API key, and usually it'll be the first link right here. So Deepgram creating API keys. And then you can just click on free API key in this top right corner. And once you create an account, you'll be able to copy it. So copy that and then head back to the code. Now I'm going to paste that key that I just copied. And we need one last one, which is Cartesia_API_key. And I'll show you how to get there. So let's go back to the browser. All right, so back in the browser, search up Cartesia.ai. Click the sign in button. And if you scroll down here to the bottom left, click on API keys, and you'll be able to copy your API key here. So make a new API key and then head back to your code. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Okay. All right. Now that we have all of our necessary API keys for our agent, we have to set up the actual agent functionality, and we can get that from the Livekit docs. So head back to the browser. And back in Voice AI Quick Start, we can scroll down. We already set up our environment variables. This is the next thing we need, this agent.py file. This is the heart of the voice agent, and it basically sets up everything for us. So copy that and then head back to your code. Make sure you copy the full pipeline agent.py file. All right, so back in the code, we're just going to make a new file and call this agent.py and paste this in here. This entry point function helps set up our sessions. So you can see here, we're connecting to our different speech to text, LLM, text to speech, and noise canceling models. And then over here, the session.start function actually starts the session to make sure that our assistant joins. And then we give it specific instructions for this session that is joining. These instructions are more specific to the actual session we'll be joining, whereas these instructions up here are more general instructions for our assistant. Then we kick everything off in this command line wrapper. Then we have to run one more command once we have this agent.py file, and that command is the download files command from the docs. So run python agent.py download files. The next thing we need to do is just run our voice agent, and when we run this agent, it'll be able to speak to us in this terminal. So when we run the python 3 agent.py console command, we'll be able to speak with this voice agent. So let's test it by running this command.
Hello. I'm here to help you with whatever you need.
Got it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Of course. I am an AI language model designed to assist with a wide range of questions and tasks. My purpose is to provide information, answer queries, and help you.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. So we successfully set up our voice AI agent. Now we need to fine tune it so that it's a stock agent and give it functionality with the Tavily API. So to begin setting up Tavily, head over to Tavily.com. Now, this is an API that's meant for doing web research. And the reason we need it is because our agent needs to be able to do research on the stock we're asking. So we're going to be calling this API in real time. So create an account and log in. And the good thing about Tavily is that they give you 1,000 free credits to play around with each month. So it's free as long as you don't go over that limit. Now, just to show you briefly how it works, we can go over to use cases right here, and we can scroll down to market researcher. They have this demo on their page to show how you can use their API to get information about different stocks. So If we want to know about Tesla and get comprehensive market insights and analysis for this stock, we can just put in Tesla here and click on Get Daily Digest. Now, if we wait, it's going to generate a report for us on how the stock is doing. And as we can see, it returned to us a report about Tesla saying Tesla recently secured a key robotaxi license in Texas, marking an incremental step towards expanding its autonomous ride-hailing service. It also gave us some key insights, like analysts are monitoring Tesla's progress in autonomous licensing as a potential catalyst for future stock performance. It also gave us current performance, risk assessments, and a price outlook, as well as a final recommendation, telling us to buy this Tesla stock. That's just a quick demo of how this API works and how powerful its web research capabilities are. Also, it's pretty easy to set up in our code. In order to do that, go back to the main dashboard page and click on Documentation. Once you're in this documentation, click on SDKs, and then click on SDK Reference. So the first thing we need to do is install the Tavily client in our local environment. So let's head back to our code really quickly. Back in our code, run the command pip install tavily-python and wait for that to install. Now that we have that on our computer, let's head back to the docs. We're going to be using the synchronous client. So first we have to import the Tavily client from what we just installed. Then we have to initialize the client passing in our API key. Let's do that right now. So click on Get an API key here. It's going to take you back to that main home dashboard. Copy your API key, and then head back to your code. Back in our code, head over to your environment file and write a Tavily_API_key and paste in that key. Now, in order to show you exactly how the API works and what it returns, I'm going to show it to you using a test script. So as you can see right here, I made a test.py file. You can as well. And let's begin to fill that out. So back in the SDK reference, we can scroll down here past the proxies to Tavily search, and it's going to tell us the parameters that we need to pass in when we're running this search. So what's required is our query, right? And our query is what we want to search, like how is Meta stock doing? What's the deal with Tesla stock? Then they have a couple of other optional parameters, such as search depth, like if you want a basic search or you want an advanced search, the search is tailored to retrieve the most relevant sources and content snippets for our query. We could also do topics. So instead of general, we could do something like finance to be a little bit more specific. They also have days, which is the number of days back from the current date to include the results. So if we have 7, we're going to go back 7 days to search for different things in the web. This is the same idea with time range, start date, and end date. We also have chunks per source. Chunks are just snippets of information from the sources that we're pulling out. We have the option to include images and image descriptions, but we don't need that right now. One that we need to include is include answer, because what this is going to do is include an answer to the query generated by an LLM based on search results. And then it tells us a basic answer is quick but less detailed, and an advanced search is more detailed. So the reason we're going to include this is because we want the API to search the web, but not just give us information from the web. We want it to summarize what it's seeing from the web so it can give an answer to our voice agent on what we are searching. For instance, if we search up how is Meta stock, this API is going to get a lot of information from different articles and it's going to give us different URLs. But what we want is the answer from this URL that an LLM could generate saying, hey, based on all these documents I looked at about Meta stock, this is what's happening today. This is what we're going to give the function to return so that our voice agent can speak to us in natural language as opposed to just giving us random chunks that it found on the web. If we scroll down here, they have a couple of more things like include domains, exclude domains, country, but we don't really need any of those for now. The two main ones we need are query and include answer. Now, this is a response format. So the results is going to be a list, and this is going to be a list of different sites that it found chunks from that are relevant to our query. We also have this query here. It's going to repeat back to us what we were asking. This answer, which I talked about, which is optional, is going to be the answer to our search query generated by an LLM. So it's as if it's summarizing the sources that it's looking at. It's also going to give us title, URL, content, a score. Score is how relevant the article is to what we were asking, and some more different things. So they have an example here of an API request. This is the request that they made. So the way we're supposed to do it here is importing the Tavily client, passing in our API key, and then for the response, we are calling the search method on this Tavily client, passing in our query and more parameters that we want. We don't need include images. We don't need include image descriptions, but we are going to write in include answer. And this is how the response is. It gives us our query. If we wanted any images, it'll include that as well as results. So it's going to be any title of an article that's relevant, the URL of the article, the content, and the score of how relevant it is. But for right now, all we want to do is copy this request and let's head back to our code so we can make a test script. make a file called test.py or anything else. We're just going to be using this for testing purposes. And let's paste in what we got from the docs. So first things first, we are importing our Tavily client. We also have to load our environment variables. So we need from.env import load.env. And we also have to import the load.env function to be able to access our environment file, which has our Tavily API key. We also have to import our operating system to be able to access that file. And what we're going to change down here is instead of API key equals Tavily your API key, put API key is equal to os.getEnd Tavily API key. This is going to successfully load our API key so that we can initialize our Tavily client. Step 2 is the response. So on the website, they had who is Leo Messi, but for our case, we're going to be asking about stock. So we can change this to how is Meta's stock doing? And we don't want to include images. We don't want to include image description. We want include answer equal to true. So let's save that. And then we're just going to be printing the response. Run this file to understand how our API is going to respond. We can do that by running Python 3 test.py and seeing what we get. Okay, cool. So it gave us a pretty big answer. So they gave us our query, how is Metastock doing? We didn't ask any follow-up questions. And this is the answer from the LLM. So it says, as of August 13th, 2025, Metastock is trading at $782, up from $780 the previous day. The market capitalization is at 1.76 trillion, down 3.35% over the last week. Analysts suggest a buy signal for future growth. So that is the answer generated from our LLM, which is pretty good. We also have our images, which are unincluded. And we got a couple of different results, which are the articles that are actually scraped through for this information. And down here is just different content from the articles. So what we want out of here is this answer that our LLM is generating. So if we were to change the script, we can do print response. And because this is a Python map that is returning, we can just do print response answer. So save that and clear the terminal. And what we're going to do is Python 3 test.py. And as we can see here, it printed this answer from our query. So we asked it, how is Metastock doing? And it said, as of August 13th, it's trading at 782, up from 780. The market cap is up 1.76, down 3.35% over the last week. This is the basics of how we're going to set up our tool call. To set up our tool call, make a new file called tools.py. So remember, we're going to be calling this API, and then when it gives us a response, we're going to be taking the answer field and returning that in our function. So let's set this up. The first thing we need are our imports. We need some logging so we can log the terminal, the status of our function call. We also need to import this function tool, which is going to let us write this function and run context. Run context is basically the transcription of our conversation with our AI agent. Next, we need to import our Tavily client as we did in our test script. And we also need our operating system to be able to access our environment variables. We need a few other things, right? So we need this .env file. We need to load our environment variables. And then we need to call the .env function. Then, as you guys already know, we need to initialize our Tavily client and set up this function tool. We're going to call this get stock analysis, and we're going to be passing in the stock name. Now, as a quick description, we just said we're going to get stock analysis from the Tavily API for any stock by name. The way we do that is we need to call the search method on this Tavily client. And for the query, we're going to include stock name, stock current price, performance, news, and analysis. Our search depth is going to be basic. The topic we're going to choose is finance. We're only going to do a basic search, so we want a couple of articles. We want to include the answer and include the time range so that what we're searching for is specific to today. Next, what we're going to do is just return this answer. So let's save this file, and I'm going to format this a little bit better so you guys can see what's going on. Let me just bring that back a little bit. Okay, now you can see the query parameters a little bit better. We're including our query, so stock name, whether that be Meta, Google, Amazon, any public stock. Our search depth is going to be basic in the topic of finance. We just want 2 results, and we want to include this answer because that's what we're going to be returning, making sure the time range is day, and then we are going to return this answer from our response. So let's save this and clear our terminal. Now we have to include this in our agent.py file, and in order to do that, we need to import this function from tools. So we're going to go right here and put from tools import get stock analysis. And then we need to pass this to our voice agent, and we do that in our class initializations. So after instructions, we need to add a comma and write tools is equal to an empty list. And in that list, we're going to write get stock analysis. And we also need to change up the agent instructions and the session instructions a little bit. You can get this whole file from my GitHub repository, or you can just paste it in. What I'm going to do is delete these instructions that we have right now. And I'm going to paste in, you are a helpful voice AI stock expert who speaks English. You can help users research stocks by searching for the latest news, analysis, earnings, and performance data using Tavily's Search API. When a user asks about a stock, you can figure out the symbol yourself. Just ask them what stock they want to research. When you make a tool to get stock data, say, okay, let me check the market stats for today before calling the tool. Delete this extra parenthesis, and that is the agent instructions that we're going to be using. Now let's also go down here and update and instead of greet the user, offer your assistance, and speak English, I'm going to put in something else right here. I'm just going to paste in greet the user and offer your assistance with stock research. Ask them what stock they want to research and just speak English. So that's the basics of it. Now we can test out our voice agent in terminal. In order to do that, like I mentioned before, the command is Python 3 agent.py console. Now let's see if our voice agent is summoned and can make tool calls to give us news about different stocks.
Hey there, I'm here to help you out with any stock research you need. Just let me know which stock you're interested in, like Apple, Tesla, or Microsoft, and I'll dig into the latest info for you.
Yeah, can you tell me information about Meta?
Sure thing. Just a moment while I check the market stats for today for Meta. I'll be right back with the latest info. All right, I've got the info on Meta. As of the most recent data, here's a quick summary. Current stock price. The latest close was at about $782.13, with an opening at $777.88. Performance over the last 2 years, highest closing price, $790, lowest closing price, $281.70, average closing price, $514.82. Total return has been impressive at 160.45%. Annualized return is around 6.138%, which is pretty solid. Volatility. There's been a standard deviation of around $130.60, indicating that the stock has had its ups and downs. Trading volume. Average volume over the last 2 years is about 7.9 billion shares. Risk measurement. The Sharpe ratio is at 0.47, suggesting a reasonable return for the risk involved. Overall, it seems like Meta has had quite an impressive run lately. Let me know if there's something specific you want to dive deeper into, or if you have another stock in mind.
That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help. If you have any more questions about
Awesome. So we see that the voice agent is successfully executing the tool call and it's getting us data from Meta. Now, it does sound a little bit robotic, but for the most part, it's pretty conversational about the data it's receiving from the API. If you want it to sound more conversational, you could always just edit the instructions. So I'm going to edit them right now. I just said when asked about data, answer in a human-like casual response, as the tool call may generate robotic numbers. So that's an easy fix. And next time when we run this voice agent, it should sound more like we're speaking to a human as opposed to just a robot calling an API and getting us numbers. But we're off to a good start so far, as we know we can execute this tool call and get data from the Tavily API in real time. Now let's set up the actual avatar, and in order to do that, we need to go to hedra.com. So head back to your browser. So in order to do this, go over to hedra.com. Hedra is pretty affordable and it's a pretty easy setup. So go to the bottom left on your profile icon and click on API key. And in this API profile, you'll be able to copy this. So copy your API key and then head over to your code, because we're going to paste this in our environment file. Now that we're in the code, let's go to the .env file and let's write in hedra_API_key and let's paste in this key. Now for the actual implementation, we can do that in agent.py. We're going to need a couple of different imports. So first off, in the Livekit plugins, let's import Hedra. And then we also import the Python imaging library, because this is how we're going to get an image for our avatar. We also need to add one more from Livekit agents, and that's room output options, because the avatar needs some specific room output options so that the audio streaming sounds good. And then let's install the Hedra plugin. So run this exact command in your terminal. So now that we have Hedra installed, we have imported it as well as the Python imaging library. We have to set up our avatar. For the first part of that, we have to set up our avatar image. So right after session, just paste in something like this: avatar_image is equal to image.open. And then I have a picture stalker.png in my downloads folder. So make sure you have an image for your avatar. This is the image that Hedra is going to turn into an interactive avatar. And once you have that on your computer, just write exactly image.open and then put in the working directory here. So this is going to open that stalker.png image and it's going to store it in this avatar_image variable. Now we have to actually declare the avatar, and the way we do that is by going down and below this line, writing in avatar is equal to hedra.avatar session. And then we set the avatar image property equal to the avatar image variable that we just defined up here. Then we just have to start the avatar session right here. One more thing we need to do is we need to disable the audio output for the room. That's what Hedra specifies to do for the avatar so that it can stream the audio properly. All you have to do here is write room output options and then include audio underscore enabled is equal to false. That's why we included the room output options up here. Okay, so let's just recap how we set up this avatar. We imported the image object from the Python imaging library. We imported Hedra as a plugin and also the room output options. If we scroll a little bit down, we initialized our avatar image from what we had on our computer. We also declared our avatar with that image, setting the avatar image property. And then we started the avatar session, disabling audio output for the room. Now, all we have to do is just test our agent. And we can do this in the Livekit playground. The Livekit playground is a UI that Livekit offers in order to be able to easily speak with your voice agents and stream their video. So the way we do that is instead of running Python 3 agent.py console, we're going to run dev. And then head over to your browser and I'll show you how to access the Livekit playground. So in Google, just search up Livekit playground. And it's usually just the first link, and then choose the project that you created at the beginning of this video. For me, that was Stock Expert. So I'm going to click connect to Stock Expert. And when I connect, we're just going to be waiting for our voice agent to show up.
Hello there. How can I help you with stock research today?
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff on Twitter between Elon Musk and Sam Altman. So I was just wondering how is Tesla stock doing today?
Okay, let me check the market stats for today. Right now, Tesla's stock is around $341. It closed recently at about $339. Over the past couple of years, it's been as high as about $480 and as low as $142. It's been gaining about 19% annually on average, but with a bit of volatility. Is there anything else you'd like to know about Tesla or any other stock?
Yeah, I see a lot of stuff from Mark Zuckerberg pushing these Meta Ray-Ban glasses. So I was wondering how's Meta stock doing?
Okay, let me check the market stats for today. Meta's stock is currently around $791, and it closed recently at about $780. Over the past couple of years, it's been doing really well, with a total return of over 150%. The annual growth rate has been around 60%, which is quite impressive. Let me know if you want more details or if you're curious about any other stocks.
That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me know if you have more questions anytime.
All right, so that's it, guys. We see that our avatar has been successfully set up. It's able to make the tool call using the Tavily API to get information about the stock that we're asking it. Now, obviously, you can make this a little bit better, like including a nice front end or making it a bit conversational, but that is the basics of how you can set up an avatar agent who can get you real-time information on how stocks are doing. Thank you guys for sticking to the very end. If you liked the video, please let me know in the comments. And I have a new tutorial coming out pretty soon, so I'll see you in the next one.